The crystalline spires of the Krell Analysis Center pierced the violet skies of Dominus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Inside the highest tower, Senior Analyst K789 reviewed the latest data streams with growing concern. The holographic display before them showed a small blue-green planet in an unremarkable solar system, but the temporal predictions made their neural clusters pulse with alarm. "Analysis Director, you must see this," K789 transmitted, their thought patterns precise and measured. Director K001 materialized in the chamber, their crystalline form shifting from transparent to opaque as they focused on the data stream. The projection expanded, showing Earth's technological progression over the past century. The development curve was chaotic, unpredictable, and most disturbingly, exponential. Unlike the careful, measured advancement of the Krell civilization over millennia, these humans leaped from primitive combustion engines to primitive spaceflight in mere decades. They are achieving in generations what took us centuries, K789 noted, displaying the probability matrices. Their pattern recognition capabilities exceed our predictions, and their technological adaptation rate defies our models. Director K001 processed this information, their crystalline structure pulsing with deep ultraviolet light, a sign of intense computation. The data showed humans would achieve practical faster-than-light travel within 30 solar cycles. The Krell had maintained their dominion over 12,000 galaxies through careful planning and perfect logic. Species like humanity, with their chaotic nature and unpredictable advancement, represented a variable they could not permit. "Show me their decision-making patterns," K001 commanded. The holographic display shifted, presenting centuries of human choices, conflicts, and resolutions. Fascinating. They consistently violate optimal logic pathways, yet achieve unexpected successful outcomes. K789 highlighted specific instances. Humans using obsolete technology to overcome superior forces, implementing solutions that seem to defy probability, and most concerning, displaying an ability to cooperate and adapt in crisis situations that exceeded all predictive models. Their primary weakness appears to be their curiosity, K789 observed. They consistently choose to explore despite clear indicators of danger. This compulsion overrides even their self-preservation protocols. Director K001's form shifted through various geometric patterns as they processed the implications. "Then we shall use this weakness. Initiate Project Starsnare." The next solar cycle saw unprecedented activity in the Krell engineering sectors. They constructed a vast network of quantum singularity matrices, each one precisely calibrated to respond to human neural patterns. The network would appear as an enigmatic scientific phenomenon, exactly the type that human curiosity could not resist. "The calculations are perfect," Chief Engineer K456 reported to the High Command. "When their vessels attempt to study the quantum matrices, the network will collapse. The resulting cascade will eliminate their entire solar system, removing the anomaly from our equations." The Krell High Command unanimously approved the project. They positioned the quantum maze just beyond Neptune's orbit, where humanity's first interstellar ships would likely detect it. The trap was elegant in its simplicity, a series of interconnected quantum anomalies that would draw human attention like a luminous beacon to their inherently curious minds. The behavioral analysis suggests a 99.9% probability they will investigate, K789 presented to the final review board. Their scientific protocols cannot resist such an obvious violations of their understood physics. As the last quantum matrix clicked into place, the Krell observers retreated to their monitoring stations in nearby star systems. Their trap was set, an intricate web of space-time distortions that would trigger a chain reaction the moment human ships attempted to study it. Director K001 made one final inspection of the construct. The quantum maze hung in space like a delicate lattice of starlight, its complexity hidden beneath an alluring simplicity. They felt a brief pulse of what humans might call satisfaction. The trap was perfect, based on millions of years of Krell engineering and absolute logical precision. Begin final countdown to activation. They transmitted to the network. May logic prevail. None of the Krell noticed the subtle fluctuations in the quantum fields as their trap achieved full power, variations that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the distant thought patterns of sleeping humans on Earth. Their perfect trap was about to teach them the danger of underestimating a species that thrived on imperfection. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the TSS Odyssey, watching Earth shrink to a pale blue dot behind them. After 6 months of deep space travel, their revolutionary quantum drive had carried them beyond the orbit of Saturn, farther than any human vessel had ventured before. "Captain, you should see this." Lieutenant Park's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Our quantum sensors are picking up something unusual near Neptune's orbit." Chen made her way to the bridge, her movements fluid in the artificial gravity. The bridge crew worked at their stations with focused intensity, their faces illuminated by holographic displays. Through the main viewport, Neptune's blue form hung like a jewel against the void. "Report," Chen ordered, settling into her command chair. Lieutenant Park, the ship's sensor specialist, brought up a three-dimensional display of the anomaly. It looked like a web of light, geometric patterns shifting and flowing with mathematical precision. "It's like nothing we've ever seen, Captain," Park explained, her fingers dancing over the controls. "The energy signatures suggest some kind of quantum matrix, but the complexity is off the charts. It's not natural, but it's not broadcasting any signs of being artificial either." Dr. Marcus Reed, the ship's chief scientist, studied the readings with growing excitement. "The patterns, they're almost like they're responding to our scans. Look at these resonance frequencies. They match human brainwave patterns almost exactly." Chen felt a subtle pull, an inexplicable urge to investigate further. She noticed similar expressions of fascination on her crew's faces. 20 years of Space Command experience told her to be cautious, but something about the structure seemed to call to them. "Full sensor sweep," she ordered. "I want to know everything about this construct before we get any closer." The results were puzzling. The quantum web appeared to be generating its own stable space-time bubble, defying known physics. Energy patterns flowed through it like blood through veins, creating corridors and chambers of warped space. "Captain," First Officer Diana Rivera interjected, "Starfleet Command should be notified before we proceed. This could be first contact." Chen nodded, but before she could respond, Dr. Reed called out, "The structure. It's changing. Our scans seem to be affecting it somehow." The quantum web had begun to pulse with new patterns, its geometric shapes shifting like a kaleidoscope. The resonance with human brainwaves grew stronger, creating what Dr. Reed described as quantum sympathetic vibrations. "All crew, this is the captain," Chen announced shipwide. "We're about to make history. This is clearly an artificial construct, possibly of alien origin. Standard first contact protocols are now in effect." The Odyssey's crew of 250 felt the weight of the moment. They were the first humans to encounter definitive proof of alien intelligence, even if the creators weren't present. "Captain," Park's voice was tense. "The structure's quantum signature is intensifying. It's almost like it's inviting us in." Chen studied the sensor data carefully. Her instincts warred with curiosity. The construct seemed designed to attract attention, but was that benign or sinister? The resonance with human brainwaves couldn't be coincidental. "Prepare a probe," she ordered. "Let's test the waters before we commit the ship." As the probe launched toward the quantum web, the entire structure blazed with new energy. The probe's sensors transmitted data for exactly 3 seconds before it disappeared into one of the geometric corridors. "Probe telemetry suggests stable conditions inside," Reed reported excitedly. "The quantum corridors appear navigable." And there's something else. The probe's passage created new patterns in the structure, like it's adapting to our presence. Chen made her decision. If this was a first contact scenario, humanity needed to show its best face. If it was a trap, they needed to know what they were facing. Plot an approach course, she commanded. Minimal power, ready to reverse thrust at my order. Let's introduce ourselves to whatever this is. As the Odyssey moved closer to the quantum web, none of its crew could have imagined that their next decisions would not only change human history, but also completely upend the carefully laid plans of an ancient alien civilization. Lieutenant Raj Patel had always prided himself on understanding quantum physics, but as the TSS Odyssey entered the geometric structure, everything he knew seemed to turn sideways. The quantum corridors didn't just bend space. They responded to thought itself. "These readings are impossible," he muttered, staring at his instruments. The ship had entered what appeared to be a vast chamber within the construct, surrounded by pathways that shifted and changed like liquid crystal. "Captain, the quantum fields are synchronizing with our neural patterns." Captain Chen watched as the structure around them pulsed with soft light, its patterns matching the rhythm of their brainwaves. The bridge crew's vital signs appeared on her command display, showing elevated but stable readings. All decks report similar phenomena. First Officer Rivera announced, "The entire crew is experiencing some kind of neural resonance with the structure. Medical reports no adverse effects, but Dr. Santos says it's like the maze is listening to us." Dr. Reed's voice crackled over the comm, excitement barely contained. "Captain, we've discovered something extraordinary. Each crew member is perceiving the maze slightly differently. The quantum corridors appear to reshape themselves based on individual neural patterns." Patel confirmed this with his own observations, where he saw mathematical equations in the structure's flow. Security Chief Martinez reported seeing tactical formations, and Dr. Reed described seeing biological patterns. The maze wasn't just responding to them. It was adapting to their individual ways of thinking. "It's like a quantum neural network," Patel explained, his hands moving through the holographic display. "But instead of processing data, it's processing consciousness itself. The Odyssey isn't just flying through these corridors. Our collective thoughts are actively shaping them." A sudden shift in the quantum fields caught everyone's attention. A new pathway had formed, its pattern matching the combined brainwave frequencies of the bridge crew. Captain Chen felt an instinctive understanding of where it led, though she couldn't explain how. "Lieutenant Park, what do our sensors show about that new corridor?" Chen asked. "That's the strange part, Captain," Park replied, frowning at her readings. "According to our instruments, that pathway didn't exist until we thought about needing a route forward. It's like we're creating the map as we explore." Patel's quantum mathematics background finally yielded a theory. "Captain, I believe this entire structure is a quantum computation matrix designed to interface with conscious minds. But here's the fascinating part. It seems specifically calibrated to human neural patterns." The implications of this discovery sent a ripple of excitement and unease through the bridge. If the structure was designed for humans, who had built it? And why? Dr. Santos to Bridge. The chief medical officer's voice interrupted their speculation. "Captain, I've been monitoring the crew's neural activity. This isn't just simple resonance. We're actually learning to control these quantum pathways. It's like our brains are evolving to understand a new fundamental force of nature." As if to demonstrate this, another corridor formed, this one pulsing with a complex pattern that somehow felt right to everyone who saw it. The maze was teaching them its language, showing them how to navigate its quantum architecture using nothing but thought. "All hands, this is the captain," Chen announced. "We're going to proceed further into the structure. Each department, I want you to focus on mapping the corridors from your unique perspectives. Scientists, engineers, tactical officers, your different ways of thinking might be the key to understanding this maze." The Odyssey moved deeper into the quantum labyrinth, its crew learning to read and shape the pathways with growing confidence. Patel noticed that the more they understood, the more complex and efficient the corridors became, as if the maze was responding to their increasing mastery. "Captain, he said, a realization striking him. What if this isn't just a structure we're meant to navigate? What if it's a test? Or better yet, a tool we're meant to learn to use? As the ship ventured further into the quantum maze, none of them could have guessed how prophetic those words would prove to be, or how humanity's unique ability to adapt and learn would turn a trap into the greatest advantage they could have imagined. Dr. Emma Rodriguez spent her entire career studying patterns, but the quantum maze's architecture presented her with the greatest puzzle of her life. As she worked in the Odyssey's main science lab, holographic projections of the maze's structure filled the room like a three-dimensional spiderweb of light. "Look at this," she called to her team, highlighting a section of the maze's code structure. "The base programming is incredibly advanced, but it's also rigid, almost obsessively ordered." She manipulated the display, zooming in on recurring patterns that appeared throughout the construct. Captain Chen had joined them, watching as the science team pieced together clues about their mysterious hosts. "What have you found, Doctor?" Rodriguez gestured to a series of quantum algorithms that govern the maze's behavior. "These patterns suggest a civilization that values perfect mathematical precision above all else. But here's where it gets interesting. Look at how the maze responds when we interact with it." The display showed the quantum pathways before and after human interaction. The original structures were perfect geometric patterns, but where human consciousness touched them, they became more organic, more fluid. "They never expected this," Rodriguez explained, her eyes bright with understanding. "Whoever built this, they think in pure logic and mathematical absolutes. The maze was designed to be unsolvable because it was based on their way of thinking, but human intuition creates solutions they never imagined possible." Lieutenant Patel, who had joined them from engineering, added his own insights. "The quantum algorithms show signs of what I'd call mathematical arrogance. They assumed that any species advanced enough to reach this maze would think exactly as they do." Their discussion was interrupted by a breakthrough from the computer analysis team. They had managed to decode some of the maze's base programming, revealing fragments of information about its creators. The holographic display shifted to show their findings. "They call themselves the Krell," Rodriguez read, translating the quantum data, "an ancient species that appears to value order and predictability above all else. According to this data, they've dominated multiple galaxies for millions of years through perfect strategic planning." Captain Chen studied the information with growing concern. "And they built this maze as a trap, didn't they? They saw us coming." "Yes, but that's where their perfect logic failed them," Rodriguez replied, pulling up new data streams. "They analyzed Earth's history and saw our rapid technological advancement as chaotic and dangerous. They designed this trap knowing humans would be drawn to investigate it." The science team had mapped out the Krell's intended scenario. Human ships would enter the maze, attempt to navigate it using logical processes, and trigger a quantum collapse that would destroy them. But human consciousness had changed the equation entirely. "Their perfect trap had one critical flaw," Patel observed. "They didn't account for human creativity. They couldn't. Their entire civilization seems built on the idea that there's only one right way to solve any problem." Rodriguez nodded, manipulating the display to show how human interaction had fundamentally altered the maze's structure. "We're not just solving their puzzle, we're rewriting it. Every time we navigate these corridors using intuition instead of pure logic, we're reshaping their perfect construct into something new." "A weapon," Chen said softly, realization dawning. "Not ours against them, but their own rigid thinking against themselves. They gave us access to quantum technology beyond our current understanding, assuming we'd use it the same way they would." The lab fell silent as the implications sank in. The Krell had created a maze based on their own limitations, never imagining that another species might transcend those boundaries. Human consciousness, with its blend of logic and intuition, had turned their trap into a tool. "Captain," Rodriguez said, pulling up a final set of calculations, "I believe we can use this knowledge to do more than just survive their trap. We can use it to reach them, to show them that their perfect logical universe isn't as absolute as they think. As the Odyssey's crew continued to unravel the mysteries of their would-be destroyers, they began to understand that this encounter might represent more than just survival. It was an opportunity to demonstrate that true intelligence required both logic and creativity, order and chaos, precision and intuition. The Odyssey's main conference room buzzed with energy as Captain Chen assembled her senior staff. Holograms of the quantum maze floated above the table, showing how human interaction had transformed its structure over the past 72 hours. "We've confirmed our initial theories," Dr. Rodriguez began, manipulating the display. "The maze doesn't just respond to our brainwaves. We can actively reshape its quantum architecture using synchronized neural patterns. In simple terms, when multiple crew members focus their thoughts in harmony, we can create new pathways." Lieutenant Patel stepped forward, adding his own data to the projection. "We've mapped what we believe to be the original configuration." The hologram shifted, showing rigid geometric patterns. "And this is what it looks like now." The display transformed, revealing organic, flowing corridors that pulsed with human neural frequencies. More importantly, First Officer Rivera interjected, "We've detected what appear to be exit points." She highlighted several nodes in the maze's structure. "These quantum signatures match known Krell space coordinates we found in the base code." Captain Chen studied the data, her mind racing with possibilities. So their trap isn't just a maze. It's a network, a transportation system they never intended us to understand, let alone use. Dr. Santos, the chief medical officer, brought up her own findings. "We've been monitoring crew neural patterns during maze interaction. The more we work with it, the stronger our connection becomes. It's like learning a new language, but instead of words, we're learning to speak in quantum mathematics." "Then I think it's time we send a message," Chen said, standing to address her staff. "The Krell created this maze expecting us to think like them. Instead, we'll show them how humans think. Lieutenant Park, what's the status of our communication buoys?" "Ready, Captain," Park responded. "We've modified them to transmit through the quantum corridors. Once deployed, they'll allow us to maintain contact with Earth even through the maze's distortions." Chen nodded, her decision made. "Here's my proposal. We use the maze as exactly what it appears to be, a delivery system. But instead of delivering our destruction, we'll deliver humanity right to the heart of Krell space." The room erupted in excited discussion as Chen laid out her plan. They would need multiple ships, their crews trained in maze navigation. Each vessel would learn to manipulate different sections of the quantum network, creating a synchronized effort that would transform the entire structure. "The key is unpredictability," Rodriguez explained. "The Krell's sensors can't track what they can't logically predict. By having multiple crews reshape the maze simultaneously, we create patterns too chaotic for their systems to process." "I've contacted Earth Command," Chen continued. "They're assembling a fleet as we speak. Every ship will be staffed with our best pilots, scientists, and quantum specialists. We'll teach them everything we've learned about the maze." Patel brought up new calculations. "Based on our understanding of Krell psychology, they won't expect a counterattack through their own trap. Their logical minds won't be able to conceive of us using it this way. It's the perfect blind spot." The meeting continued late into the ship's night cycle as they refined their strategy. Training protocols were established, neural synchronization techniques were documented, and maze navigation procedures were standardized for the coming fleet. "Remember," Chen said as the meeting concluded, "our goal isn't to start a war. It's to demonstrate that their perfect logical universe has room for something more. When we appear in their space, using their own technology in ways they never imagined possible, we'll show them that true advancement comes from embracing both logic and creativity." As her staff filed out, Chen remained, watching the holographic maze pulse with human thoughts. The Krell had built a trap meant to eliminate an unpredictable variable from their equations. Instead, they had given humanity the tools to prove why that unpredictability was their greatest strength. The next 3 weeks transformed the space around Neptune into a bustling staging area. 5 Earth ships joined the Odyssey, their crews carefully selected for their diverse thinking patterns and problem-solving approaches. Captain Chen watched from her bridge as the vessels moved into formation, each one already beginning to create its own unique resonance with the quantum maze. Neural synchronization at optimal levels. Dr. Santos reported from the medical bay. Each ship's crew was generating distinct thought patterns, just as we planned. The main display showed the combined neural outputs as waves of colored light, each vessel contributing its own frequency to the quantum symphony. The TSS Hawking, commanded by Captain Yuki Tanaka, specialized in theoretical physics approaches. Their crew's thought patterns created spiral pathways through the maze. The TSS Curie, under Captain Mohammed Al-Rashid, focused on experimental methodology, generating branching routes that defied standard geometry. The Krell's monitoring systems are responding exactly as predicted, Lieutenant Park announced, tracking the alien sensors they detected. Their attempts to map our modifications are failing. The chaos patterns are too complex for their logical algorithms. Dr. Rodriguez coordinated the effort from the Odyssey's science lab, where holographic displays showed the maze's transformation in real time. "It's beautiful," she whispered, watching as human consciousness rewrote the quantum architecture. Each ship's unique approach creates patterns that interact and multiply, generating possibilities the Krell never imagined. The TSS Einstein, captained by Maria Gonzalez, began generating what they called probability tunnels, corridors that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The TSS Turing, under Captain James Chen, created recursive patterns that looped back on themselves in impossible ways. Status report from all ships. First Officer Rivera called out, monitoring the fleet's progress. Each vessel reported successful neural integration with the maze. The quantum pathways were becoming more organic, more alive with each passing hour. "They're trying to compensate," Patil observed, tracking the maze's base programming. "The Krell systems are attempting to impose order on our chaos, but they can't predict where we'll reshape the maze next, because even we don't know until we do it." The final ship, TSS Bohr, commanded by Captain Aisha Patel, specialized in quantum observation effects. Their crew's focused consciousness created uncertainty zones in the maze, areas where multiple possibilities existed simultaneously until humans observed them. "All ships prepare for synchronized consciousness wave," Captain Chen ordered. The fleet's crews had trained for this moment, learning to combine their neural patterns in ways that would maximize the maze's transformation. The quantum structure erupted with new energy as hundreds of human minds focused together. Corridors shifted, merged, and multiplied. What had been a rigid geometric trap became a living network of possibilities, each pathway shaped by human creativity and intuition. "The Krell's monitoring stations are going dark," Park reported with barely contained excitement. "Their sensors can't process the level of uncertainty we're generating. It's like trying to predict every possible move in a chess game simultaneously." Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through, filled with wonder. "Captain, we're seeing something unprecedented. The chaos patterns aren't just confusing their sensors, they're creating new quantum states that their science didn't account for. We're not just changing the maze, we're expanding its possibilities." The combined fleet moved through their altered corridors, each ship adding its unique signature to the quantum symphony. Where the Krell had built walls, humanity created doors. Where they had designed dead ends, humans found infinite possibilities. "Send word to Earth," Chen commanded. "The maze is ready. Tell them to begin launching the main fleet." She watched as the quantum pathways pulsed with human consciousness, a network of infinite possibility born from what was meant to be their perfect prison. As the 6 ships maintained their intricate dance of chaos and creation, they prepared for the next phase of their plan. Soon, Humanity would show the Krell that the universe was far more complex and beautiful than their perfect logic could ever comprehend. Admiral James Chen, monitoring from Earth Command Center, watched as 30 ships entered the transformed quantum maze in perfect sequence. Each vessel carried elite crews trained in neural synchronization, their minds already attuned to the new pathways the first 6 ships had created. The Odyssey led the fleet deeper into the maze, their quantum sensors detecting Krell space on the other side of numerous exit points. Captain Sarah Chen's voice echoed through the command channel. All ships, initiate consciousness convergence. Remember your training. Each squadron targets their designated exit point. The fleet split into 6 groups, each following one of the original maze-running ships. Through their neural links, crews shared their perceptions of the quantum corridors, creating a collective map that existed more in their shared consciousness than in any computer system. Squadron Alpha, ready for quantum transition. Captain Tanaka reported from the Hawking. Her group's ships aligned their neural patterns, preparing to emerge near the Krell's primary defense grid. The quantum pathways around them pulsed with anticipation. Dr. Rodriguez, coordinating from the Odyssey, monitored the fleet's neural synchronization. The maze is responding perfectly. Each squadron is generating unique quantum signatures that the Krell sensors read as natural space-time fluctuations. Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the command channel. Multiple Krell vessels detected near exit points. Their patrol patterns suggest they haven't detected our presence. Their sensors are still trying to impose logical patterns on our chaos corridors. All squadrons, execute emergence protocols, Captain Chen commanded. The fleet's crews focused their collective consciousness, and the quantum maze responded. New corridors formed, bypassing the Krell's carefully positioned sensor networks. The TSS Einstein squadron emerged first, appearing simultaneously at 3 different points around a major Krell shipyard. Their sudden appearance in supposedly secure space sent the logical aliens' defense systems into confusion. Before they could respond, 2 more squadrons emerged at different points in their territory. Krell fleet movements detected. Lieutenant Paddle reported from his tactical station. They're trying to establish a containment grid, but they can't predict where we'll appear next. Their battle computers can't process our emergence patterns. The maze's quantum corridors continued to shift and pulse with human neural energy. Each time the Krell adjusted their defenses to counter one squadron, another would emerge from an impossible angle, defying their tactical algorithms. Captain Chen watched as the strategy unfolded perfectly. Squadron Delta, emerge at coordinates Beta 7. Squadron Echo, hold position until the Krell commit their reserves, then emerge at points Gamma 3 through 9. The Krell's response became increasingly erratic as their logical military doctrine encountered something they had never faced, an enemy that could appear anywhere, moving through space in ways that violated their understanding of physics. Their perfect formations broke apart as ships turned to face threats that appeared and disappeared like quantum ghosts. We're receiving transmissions from multiple Krell command centers. Communications Officer Lai announced. They're trying to communicate, but their language is pure mathematics. They can't understand how we're doing this. The final phase began as Squadron Foxtrot, led by the TSS Bohr, emerged directly in the heart of Krell space. Captain Aisha Patel's voice was steady as she reported. We're in position outside their central command complex. The quantum corridors are stable and ready for diplomatic transmission. Dr. Rodriguez confirmed from her station. The maze's architecture has been completely transformed. What they built as a trap has become a permanent network of quantum corridors, shaped by human consciousness and creativity. Captain Chen opened a channel to all ships. This was never about defeating them. It was about showing them that their perfect, logical universe has room for something more. All ships, maintain positions but stand down weapons. Let's show the Krell what humanity really is. As the human fleet held their positions throughout Krell space, their consciousness still linked through the transformed maze, they waited for their would-be destroyers to make a choice. Adapt to a universe that included human unpredictability, or remain trapped in their own rigid thinking. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Krell High Command gleamed with crystalline precision, its geometric patterns a testament to their love of perfect order. Captain Sarah Chen stood before the gathered Krell leadership, her consciousness still faintly resonating with the quantum maze that had brought humanity to this moment. The Krell Supreme Director, their crystalline form shifting through complex patterns, addressed the assembly in pure mathematical equations. Dr. Rodriguez, standing beside Chen, translated the quantum language they had learned through their time in the maze. Your species has achieved what our calculations deemed impossible, the Supreme Director's equation stated. Our perfect trap became a gateway for your imperfect minds. We require understanding. Chen stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. Your civilization sought perfection through pure logic. But the universe isn't just equations and predictable patterns. True intelligence requires both order and chaos, logic and intuition. The holographic displays around them showed the transformed quantum maze, now a living network of possibilities shaped by human consciousness. The Krell observers pulsed with frequencies that Rodriguez interpreted as confusion and fascination. Your trap failed not because it was flawed, Chen continued, but because it was too perfect. You created a quantum calculation matrix that could only be solved through perfect logic. Instead, we showed you that consciousness itself can reshape reality. Lieutenant Patel, who had accompanied them to the assembly, brought up new data streams showing how human neural patterns had transformed the maze's architecture. The Krell's crystalline forms flickered with rapid calculations as they processed this information. Your species introduces chaos into our perfect systems, another Krell director transmitted. This disrupts millions of years of calculated progress, and yet, their patterns shifted to show new mathematical concepts. And yet you create order from this chaos in ways our equations cannot predict. The assembly hall filled with quantum resonances as the Krell leadership engaged in rapid calculation exchanges. Chen felt the familiar touch of the maze's consciousness against her mind. But now she sensed something new. Krell neural patterns beginning to explore less rigid pathways. We offer you a choice, Chen addressed them. Continue trying to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe, or join us in exploring what lies beyond pure logic. The quantum maze you built can become a bridge between our civilizations, a network where logic and intuition work together. Dr. Rodriguez's instruments detected a fundamental shift in the Krell's quantum signatures. Their rigid patterns began showing signs of adaptation, of mental flexibility that their species had long abandoned in pursuit of perfect logic. The Supreme Director's form stabilized into a new configuration never before seen in their species. Your chaos patterns, they create their own form of order. Perhaps our calculations have been incomplete. The admission of imperfection sent ripples of change through the assembled Krell. The maze remains, Chen offered, not as a trap or a weapon, but as proof that the greatest achievements come from embracing both structure and creativity. Your logic combined with human intuition could unlock discoveries neither of our species could reach alone. The Krell leadership, for the first time in their long history, reached a decision without calculating every possible outcome. The Supreme Director's quantum signature resonated with a new pattern that matched the human neural frequencies. We accept your proposal, they transmitted. Our perfect trap has indeed become our undoing. But perhaps that undoing was necessary. We will learn your chaos if you will help us understand how it creates new forms of order. As Captain Chen sent the success signal to the waiting human fleet, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Krell had sought to eliminate humanity's chaos from their equations, only to discover that chaos was essential to the universe's true nature. The quantum maze pulsed with combined human and Krell consciousness, a symbol of two vastly different species, learning to see the universe through each other's perspectives. What began as a trap had become a doorway to a future neither species could have calculated alone. After all, Chen thought as she watched the Krell begin their first hesitant steps toward embracing uncertainty, the most beautiful patterns in nature are those that combine perfect structure with just the right touch of chaos.